You could have a sleep if you don't slow down the tracks. You could have a fight if you bring your sky back. All you do is call me. I'll be anything you need. You could have a
All right. Good morning. Good morning. It is 6:32. It is August 12th. It is CPI day. Pretty important day, to be honest. My name is Scott Redler. I am the Chief El Jefe, the Chief Strategic Officer of T3Live.com, founder of Red Dog Mindset. Hope everyone's feeling good. I've been doing the 630 Club since 2020. It's 5 years later. Hopefully I've added some value to your lives, and a lot of you guys are part of the Alpha team, part of Redler All Access, and also part of the subscribe button above, which will at some point eat up the 630 Club. But anyway, at this point, I feel like you have to be a little bit on edge, right? After what happened with the jobs report and all the revisions, if all of a sudden they calculate the CPI different, you might have a little volatility today because the world doesn't want inflation and the administration wants Feds to cut rates, so you can't have a crazy inflation number. I'm not saying there will be, so it's just going to be interesting. All in all, every day I sit here, I put in points of reference because points of reference matter. Measuring your risk matters. Knowing what you're in matters. Knowing your time frame matters. And right now, this is the S&P cash, and here we are. If you remember, we had this little 2-day down move, right? Which kind of reset things a little bit. If you used your sell rules back here, it didn't really matter much, right? This is when we were in UVXY where we pared down some risk. This is where you had you opened up, you could have sold some strength. It wasn't even predatory, right? 64.27 didn't hold, closed, gave you a pretty big red candle to reduce, and then you had the down move. So we were out of the way. And then you had this little gap fill, that Monday, which said the bears had no power, and all of a sudden we've crawled our way back up to 64.07. So with that being said, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. I still have a lot of things on, not a lot, but I'm in control. I pared down a little bit yesterday. You had a way to pare down. If you remember last Wednesday, we made a lot of money. I bought a lot of Tesla. I rolled into 3 different sets of strikes already. Bought a lot of Google, still in probably a little bit more than half the position. Made some good money in Amazon. Made some great money in Apple. Awesome money in Bitcoin. Awesome money in Ethereum. A lot of things going on. If you're not looking for top and you're not looking for things to not end well, you're making some money. At this point, though, we got to see how it goes. I do have some AST, ASTS. If you remember, this name has been a very important name for me in my community. This was yesterday, earnings after the closed. It's not an earnings play, but need to know what you can handle. I might switch to calls, which I did. So, this was a very tradable move. As far as this, I know a lot of people were worn out in here when they thought ASTS was going to go and it failed, and they didn't have the endurance, didn't have the mindset, didn't have the wherewithal to come back to it. But Red Dog Mindset as well as T3 together, boom, that was a nice move. And then even this, I remember at the 630 Club, we were talking about buying the $54 calls into the pullback, and you made a new high. So here, to me, I really wasn't that aggressive because I'm like, you know what, from 60 down to 45, it's a summer. So what I did is, I got rid of most of my shares, into this little move here. So I converted to $50 calls for August 22nd for next week. So what am I going to do? First of all, I got to get through the CPI. I never count my money when, never count your money. But, before the market opens, and with options, sometimes they could do anything. But all in all, ASTS, I was talking with those guys on, I do a kind of a spaces with these guys, stocks on spaces. They're really good guys, younger than me. So we're up $6 into 51.76. So that's probably right around here. I think it's going to be it'll be interesting to see how much of today's gap up holds. I would think into this area, it's going to be a little tough especially into this area. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably sell half my options and then maybe create a call spread and then see what it's like and then readjust and then move on. But ultimately, really good name for a lot of people. A lot of people made a ton of money here. I know it's pre-revenue, pre-this, pre-that, but sometimes, they grow into their future. Anyway, so nice trade. I've only had really two really good trades that worked for me for earnings season. That and NBIS was a really good one also. Look at that. NBIS was a name that we were all over. I think some people are still in it. Nice little cup and handle. This is, we had the $56 calls and stock was as high as 76. So another newer name. Listen, newer names happen. It's not always the same old school names that lead the next move. Yes, it's good to stay with your bread and butter names. So when they go, and you're there. But, this was a nice new name that actually paid me a lot of money last week. And you could have bought versus a pro earnings gap and made some good money. So right there, that's two different names that I wasn't playing a year or two ago. And then the names that I have been playing for the past few years, big time move. Tesla, big time move. This one candle is all you needed to see. This one little candle could have changed your entire month, right? Took out 312, took back the moving averages, and boom. That was fantastic. Fantastic. I was in Montauk eating a lobster roll and making money. Yay, that could happen. But anyway, now it hit 346. It's up a little bit. I actually took mine off yesterday. This was a nice 4-day move. I used my day count, so I'm waiting. Apple, I stayed small. I got rid of my options into this move. That was big. And now we'll see, does 224.76 hold? Does Apple build a nice little bull flag to then give you a continuation pattern? How long does it take the 8-day to catch up? It might be a little bit. I know there was some banter that Musk is suing Apple for not putting Grok at the top of their app store. I don't know what that means. But right now, Apple's down $1.10. Yesterday, made money buying a dip in Apple. The Qs are down 12 cents. So we'll see if it could hold 224.76. If it doesn't, probably not the end of the world either. Some people are like, hey, Red Dog, I think it's going to come down and retest this 217 area. If it does, that just means that the speed is slower. I'd rather see it hold in here and continue, but what I want it to do and what it does is two different things. So I'm still massaging Apple. And like I'm saying, Apple, I know the name. People used to call me the Apple trader. Then they called me the Tesla trader. Then they called me the NVIDIA trader. But anyway, I trade what moves. I trade patterns. That's what we do here. But anyway, 224.76. We'll see if it goes sideways and goes. Google also just like an inside day. Not a big deal. Yes, I would have liked it to have been opening up, but it didn't. I had a way to buy some more. So I did buy some more. You look at this pattern. Here's 202.61. That's yesterday's low. Can this build an upper bull flag also? We were accumulating in here. By the way, I started buying Google here. I rolled up so many different sets of options. Google's been really good to us. It's been a great power play for T3 and for my community. And here we are. If we could stay above 199 and go sideways, there could be another move here. Why wouldn't it test 207? So I'd like to see, it hang in here and get ready to go. I'm staying with Google. I'm hyper focused on it because even yesterday in the afternoon, you saw how it, the SPYs came in, the Qs came in, and it didn't do a whole lot. It hung around there. What's Google doing right now? Let's see. What's Google doing? It's down a whole 13 cents. Not a big deal. And then we're trying to see, do we get another move in Meta, or is it going to be annoying? Right now, Meta, real quickly, you can have two different ways to play it. You can be long versus 758 if you're super active. If it breaks the 8-day, maybe you don't want to sit in it for 13 points to 745, or you don't trade for a living. Like, I just want to be in a name that could pay me while I'm doing my job, which a lot of people, are subscribers here that also have, jobs. Trading is a full-time job, but you could also have a full-time job and trade a little less and make some money on the side besides in putting money in a 401k or a 529, all those things. So anyway, one of the strategies is you buy versus 758 or you buy versus 745. And if you play for momentum, it's going to have to get above 773. Yeah, this is a little lesson. Some people are like, Red Dog, I think Meta's going to 800. I'm like, if you think Meta's going to 800, what does it have to do first? It's got to get above 773, which is yesterday's high, and it's got to get above 784, the high right here. So these are your two pivots for tiers, where if you think it's going to get to 800, it's got to get above this first and that first, and it's got to hold this. That's how you create your parameters for a trade. If you're in it because it's got a bull flag and it's holding higher, that's the reason you're in a trade. If it breaks 758, the reason changes. So you might be out of it. But your reason could be also, hey, I'm not that active. I'm not going to give it to 758. I'm going to give it to 745. Then the reason you're in that trade is because it's above 745, it's building, and at some point, maybe it digests enough to go. So what's your reason? Did your trade change? Not, are you making or losing money? Yeah. Anyway, let me say hello to some of my dogs. Let's see what the comments are. Who do we got? Okay, we got Kenneth Rosen, BK TX takeover rumors yet again. Okay, I don't play takeover rumors. BM&R was great yesterday. Yes, I had Chase sell 50% of his BM&R. He thinks I'm really smart. A bunch of weeks ago, not even a bunch. Last week I told him to buy it at 33 because we trimmed some of the video, and he's like, "How the hell did you know that? Did you buy a lot of it?" I'm like, "I did, all right." Anyway, he was at a golf outing yesterday. Take you to Sizzler. Sizzler happens if the cannabis sector remains in play and continues to go, and the private placement I put too much money in 2020 comes public, then I'm taking everyone to Sizzler and Carvel. Anyway, Pony. That's interesting. I got stopped out of Pony a little while ago. What's Pony doing? Hold on. It's up 28 cents. That's it. What kind of great earnings is that? Anyway, it's time to look at MJ. I was in MJ also. But yeah, Tilray is up above $1. So MSOS, we started talking about MSOS down here. Down here is when I remember that article I posted with Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's not here. Mike Tyson and some of those guys, and I said Trump's getting a little heat from them. You can Google it and search it. I never baloney, but anyway, what a nice move. I had a ton of $3 calls. This was great, but if this continues, the company Hydro Builder, which I'm a private investor in, could come out, and then that would make me a lot of money, and I'd be very happy. Anyway, none of that happens to me though. I'm a grinder. I make money day in or day out, or I try to. I'm almost back to the highs of my year, which I'm very excited about. Anyway, so this has been really good. I didn't go with a lot. I went with that, and I went with MJ. Look at that move in MJ. Wow. Really nice action. But look at that, too. It was above the 8-day, above the 21-day, not like here when it was downtrending. Cannabis names are in a 10-year bear market. Last week I did buy some MJ and MSOS. It seems like a bunch of celebrities are getting on President Trump to focus on the safe banking bill for September, which would be huge for the group. I had to sell half my MJ and MSOS. My calls doubled, but I'll sit with the rest, and which is what I did. So, and it's above the 200-day now. So anyway, whatever. So let's go back to BMNR and Ethereum. Ethereum I've been in also to play catch up because the institutions are buying it. The institutions, look at that move. Wow. So at this point, probably needs a little rest. Remember this tight pattern? We were buying the $22 calls. That was a huge move. And then I started buying the ETF again in here. I'm still in it. BMNR was a focus last week down here. So this was the language. This was the language that I put on Twitter on, I think, this day. You could test that. You can go look August 5th, August 6th. BMNR has some big time players in it, which they do. I think if you're long term, you could put some away, as this was 160, and now around 32-ish. Holy cow! If you trade for a living, it's tight, and you could trade above 33.87 with force. Maybe it gives you a cash flow trade. So this force, where did it get to yesterday? The company wants to buy 5% of all the outstanding Ethereum. Went as high as what? 70. This was a name that nobody really knew a while back. And all of a sudden, it's a new piece of business that if you do your homework and you get up early and you figure it out and you follow the right people, there are new ways to make money. So right here, boom. Meanwhile, these guys know what they're doing. Everyone says a secondary is coming, so everyone's shorting it, and they're getting squeezed. These guys know how to wait, squeeze shorts until they do a secondary. And there's probably another secondary coming soon, but they're not like these idiots from SBET. They're like suffocating their name. Like every time it goes up, like we gotta sell more stock, and people are getting pissed. So anyway, that's what they did again, and it's not having as big of a move. So anyway, gotta know what you're doing. Is Rumble dead? Rumble was horrible. Rumble had every reason to be up yesterday, and they sold it. Look at that candle. That's gross. I didn't even play it. I played it here, sold half, and then I lost money in the other half. I don't know. People don't want them to take over a cloud business. They want them to do really great podcasts like Spotify and use money to buy crypto. So what the hell are they doing? I have no idea. All I know is there's nothing doing here. They had a chance and then they blew it. That's my thought there. Um, let's go. You want to go back to that GLXY? It's a little choppy. My guys like this way back here. If you remember, this is when they stopped a lot of people out, and then I would say most of my guys made money right here and probably sold into this topping tail, and haven't gotten back to it yet. But it's building. This is kind of this is again one of these type of treasury crypto type companies, and sloppy as hell though. This is sloppy as hell. So you have BMNR, you have SBET, and GLXY. So far, BMNR has been the best one. They have the best operators. I don't think you need all of them. BMNR now at 62.55 pre-market. I get it. Thank you. Anyway, what else is cooking here? Amazon. Let's go back to mega cap tech. Amazon is hanging in there. It's trying to fill this gap from earnings. If you remember, we were buying it in here. I'm like, let me buy some 220 calls, and it worked. And now it went to 226. So I started buying some 225s for this Friday. If it goes down a little bit more, I might buy a little bit more for not this Friday, for next Friday. This is the prior high. Amazon, though, is a pain in the butt. It really is. But anyway, what about APP? It's been working. A lot of people making good money there. Nothing wrong with this one. Had good numbers above the 8-day. Definitely looks good. I'm not in there. ARM, pain in the ass, excuse my French. I took it for earnings and I lost money. So I really have no interest here. There's really not a lot of semis working besides NVIDIA and even AMD a little bit. NVIDIA, I'll watch it today. I like to see NVIDIA hold this this spot. If NVIDIA could hold 178-ish, at some point it takes out 184. I made some money yesterday buying the dip there. I'm just trying to limit my exposure, especially with the CPI today. The CPI comes out today. If they rework it and it's really hot, the market's not going to like it. So what does that mean? That means you have to be a little careful. I did buy some UVXY calls just in case. Pretty cheap insurance. Here's their ascending little channel. So if the CPI is light, if they do it that way, then hey, maybe it takes out 640 and you see another move. That's why you can't just be all in short. That's why I'm in some 639 premium that I sold. So that's one way to hedge. And I'm in some UVXY, but I also still have some risk on. Some people like this, the market's, today's your day of reckoning. If it is, it's got to get below and stay below yesterday's low first, which is 634.66. So that's a point of reference to have. 634.66. I'm probably not going to be like playing it, so tight to the vest at 8:30. I'm going to let it settle out. I have enough things on to cover myself. But if we were to see 629, maybe that's a spot, if they bring it in to buy. And if it gets above and stays above this, it's going to go higher. So these are the levels I think you should have on for the SPYs just to watch. Again, know what you can handle. It's going to be a fast moving tape. In order to get to 629, it's got to get below 634.66. In order to, make a new high, it's got to get through that area. So that's why those numbers are important. What's the next name for a 20-year hold? Christina is asking me. SPYs, buy the SPYs every single month for the next 20 years, and you're going to make a ton of money. Buy the Qs every single month for the next 20 years, you make a ton of money. As far as what's the next name for the next 20 years, it's hard to tell. Dash, I did buy some Dash back yesterday. Dash had a huge earnings move. So I did not, I didn't buy it here or here. I started buying a little bit into this area. Here's your 21-day. If it breaks below the 21-day, it could be in the penalty box for a little while longer. I'm hoping it holds, this, this was 251, 21 days a little closer to, just say 248.50. It'd be nice if it holds that. I bought a little bit of options back and a little bit of stock. I don't think this story is over at all. It just came a long way. If you remember on the weekly chart with Dash, look at this cup and handle move. I started putting this on the go-to list here with the 630 club. And now all you have is, it made a little bit of a tail move. It's still above the 8-day. You wouldn't want to see it get below this 246-ish because maybe you do want it, and then it corrects more down to here. So do I trade futures? Like, I don't trade futures just a trader. I trade a lot of things, and I'm up at 4:45. If I traded S&P futures, I'd be up all night, and then when would I sleep? And then I wouldn't have any marbles left. So you got to know what time you want to allocate. I'm up at 4:45. I'm doing a 25-20 with a few hundred people, a nice little workout, getting my mind right, talking some stocks, talking some life. Then I get here. I do the 6:30 club where I give you a free 20 minutes. That's probably not going to be here in the next 3 to 6 months. So you want to subscribe above. And then a lot of people go to the Alpha team where we trade, and I'm on the microphone all day long trading. I make most of my living trading between 9:30 and 11, taking advantage of the over emotion out there, using my daily pivots, my daily charts, relative strength rules, day count rules, tier system. Then right around 11:30, I've had a day, and then I usually go to the gym and do something, put my stops in if the trade changes. Then I come back around 2:00, and I'm also the founding partner of T3. So I have things I got to do. Today I have a podcast at 11:00. Yesterday I was on Sirius MSR. So if I all of a sudden traded futures all night long, when would I sleep? And I wouldn't have any brain cells left. So you got to know, what part of your day is your go-to spot. How do you want to live your life? You can't do everything. You could do a lot, but you can't do everything. Netflix reminds me of this a little bit because Netflix had a great report, but they sold it down because it was at the highs, and now Netflix is acting a little bit better. Netflix was 13.41. They sold it down, and people were like, oh, why is it coming in so much? Then finally woke up a little bit. If you're in this, I would use 11.97 as a stop. MLD, 3 to 6 months. You've been teasing us for a year already. Let's go. Oh, you want me to end the 6:30 club, MLD? I'll end the 6:30 club tomorrow, and then 5,000 to 7,000 people won't be able to watch the 20 minutes for free. They better all be on the subscriber thing above for Red Dog Mindset. But I didn't put together my Discord yet, and I didn't combine my 25-20 with this. I have a lot of things I got to do still. All I'm saying is for $10 a month, if you're not a member of the Alpha team, some people are like, I'm not spending $100 for the Alpha team, and I don't have all day to allocate to the market or whatever it is. Anyway, I can't get into all of it. Just live your life however you want to live it. But MLD, I love you. But anyway, yes, onions up 6. That's been a really great trade. AMD's hanging around. As long as AMD holds this 167 area, I think it looks good. I'm not trading it yet. I'd rather just trade NVIDIA. I don't need AMD in my life. But again, if NVIDIA could hold 170, this is very important. Like if all of a sudden NVIDIA lost the 8-day and really lost it, that would tell you that, hey, maybe we have some more volatility in August and you have to be a little bit more careful and you don't want to draw it down. So I think today, if the market gets hit on the CPI, I'm not saying it will, you got to really be careful and use this 178-ish. If you're in AMD, I would say make sure it holds this 167 area. Otherwise, that trade could change. Let's see who else is on here. Red Dog is the best. Nah, I just work hard. ONON is up $6. That's true. And hopefully everyone's feeling good. Listen, you better be enjoying your summer. It's August 12th already. It's going to go by fast, and all of a sudden it'll be September. But I do love September also. Anyway, so with that said, know what you can handle. A lot of things could change at 8:30, and I'll post some charts at 9:00 once the dust settles, and we'll talk about the rest of the day. Just a trader. Can you trade options like futures, but with all that? What? I learned futures, but intimidated by options. Don't be intimidated by options. Just don't be intimidated by anything in life. Learn, test things out, have some success, have some failures, get knocked down, get up differently, and then you'll never be scared of anything. Start small and then build on it with anything in life. You could do it. You could do it. I'll see you later.